2-1. Okay, we are in the second year in Siman Kuf Chaf, which is all the halachas of Sefira Sa'imer, and during the time of Sefira, we're up to Sif Dalit. Lechatchila, ideally, which means that if you have the ability to be able to do this, then kodim sheyuvarich tzarich sheyeda amahu mevarich. Before you even make the bracha, you should already know what you're going to be making the bracha on. In other words, you should know what day it is. When you make the bracha, and when you say Hashem's name, you should already know, both of you, let's go. You should already know what you're going to be making the bracha on and what the day is. The Hainu Sheyeda Kama Yamim Masfira, you should know where you're holding, right? In other words, when you make the bracha, you should already know. Oh, now, by the way, we don't make a bracha of Shehecheyanu on this mitzvah. It's a mitzvah, right? Why don't we make a bracha of Shehecheyanu, even though, at least in the beginning, maybe in the first day? So there's a few reasons why. Some of it has to do with what we were talking about earlier by the break when a lot of you guys came over, which is that the days of Sfira are not such a happy day. There's kind of an avelus there. We know that it's a time of din, which is why some people that follow the minhagim of the Arizal, they don't get a haircut throughout the days of Sfira at all, because there is an idea not to cut your hair during that time. I mean, we'll talk about that soon when we get up to there. But so we'll save that for later. But there is an idea that it's the Yemei Adin, and therefore you don't make a Shehecheyanu, number one. And then also, there's no real Maisa, like you're just counting a number. I mean, it's not like you're not doing anything, so it's also hard to make a bracha on that as well. And another thing also is that it's really a preparation for something else. In other words, we're trying to prepare to get to Matan Torah. We're waiting for the day to come. If we had an option of skipping all that time and getting straight there, we would do that as well, because that's what our ultimate goal is, to get there. So for all these reasons, we don't make a shehecheyanu. So fine, that's number one. But before you make the regular bracha, you should know what you're doing. It's like, imagine you make a bracha on food before you have the food in front of you. I mean, you have to sort of plan it before. However, b'diavad, but let's say you made the bracha, im lo yoyed, and you didn't know what today was, but it's the middle of Ma'ariv, and you hear everyone else benching next to you. So you have in mind that after you make the bracha, you'll listen to the guy next to you what he says, and then you'll know. So the halacha is gam kenyatza, that works as well. Okay. So case number one is you didn't have in mind when you made the bracha any day. You didn't know when it was. You made the bracha with nothing in mind, and therefore, when you it still works. It's not ideal. You should know. It's the best way to do it. When you make a bracha, know what you're making a bracha on, but it works. That's case number one. Number two, what would happen if you had in mind that you're going to count today is the fourth day, right? That's what you had in mind. Then you make a bracha, and then you realize, maybe you heard other people, that they're counting the fifth night, and you say, oh no, I had in mind the fourth night, right? So then the halacha is sofer chamisha. You already made the bracha, having in mind the fourth night, it's okay. You say number 5, and you don't have to make another bracha. In other words, the fact that you thought the wrong day doesn't matter ultimately, because you made the right bracha, you made the right words, the right counting after the fact. Fine. That's case number 2. So case number 2 is, case number 1 was you didn't have anything in mind because you didn't know. Case number 2 is you had the wrong day in mind. In both cases, it's okay. Number 3, what would happen if you actually make a mistake? In other words, you were supposed to say the 6th day. And instead, you said by mistake, you said the wrong one. You actually said the wrong words. So then the halacha is like this. If you remember right away while you're in the middle of counting, so right away you fix it. You don't have to fix it. I actually saw this in Machlokes. If you said hayom yom, let's just say chamisha yamim. If you just say shisha yamim, or if you have to say hayom yom shisha yamim, which b'bashas you probably should do that, I would imagine. But either way, the point is you don't have to make another bracha. You said the wrong one, and you remember it immediately. You could fix it right away, and you don't have to make a second bracha. Ava im hifsik tzas, but if you delayed until you realized, or whatever it was, a few minutes, so then tzarich levarach shenis. So then already you have to make another bracha. Then, because basically you counted the wrong one. We spoke about the date line, right? Okay, so let's just recap this one more time. So there's 3 cases over here. Number 1, you had nothing in mind. Number 2, you had the wrong day in mind. And number 3, you actually said the wrong one. Okay. Now, number one, not a problem. Count. Listen to the guy next to you. Number two, even though you had the wrong one in mind, also not a problem. Number three, if you said the wrong one, it depends how quickly you remember. If you remember immediately, you fix it. And if it was a few seconds, then already you'd have to do it again with a bracha. Now, just to come back to the date line for a second, the date line's issue is that you jump a day. But let's say you're flying from California to New York, or from New York to Arizona, or whatever it is, where there's a difference in hours. So let's say you flew from New York to Arizona. Yeah, you guys all came, well, some of you guys came here, right? So when you did, you went, oh, here you went back. So it'll be the opposite. Let's say Shavuos, you went home. So that means that you lost 3 hours. So now instead of counting however many hundreds or thousands of hours it would have been for the full Sefira, you're missing 3 hours. It's okay, not a big deal. The issue was when you cross the date line and you miss the whole day, that's a more complicated situation. But if you're going in different time zones, it's okay, 2 hours less, 3 hours more, no big deal. That's fine. Okay. That makes sense. That's it. Everyone's good with that? Not such a big deal? Okay. Yes.
Is it not possible to count on a plate?
You could. Well, when you're crossing the date line? No, that's not how it works. It jumps a day. In other words, 1 minute it's Tuesday, 12 in the afternoon, and then you cross a certain point, and then all of a sudden it's Wednesday, 12 in the afternoon. So it wasn't like a night that came. But I'm using an example. So you don't have that idea where you do that. Okay. So now let's move on to Sefei. B'chol Yom Tif, every single Yom Tif. Imchal Leil Rishon b'Shabbos. If the first day of Yom Tif falls on Shabbos, she'ein oimrim oz Ma'iravis. You don't say the tefillah called Ma'iravis. What is Ma'iravis? Ma'iravis is basically poems. Ma'iravis is called Ma'iravis, not Ma'iriv or Arvis. It's called Ma'iravis. Ma'iravis is different. What?
The rub is what?
It's different types of poems and things like that have to do with the Yom Tif. And the reason why you wouldn't do it on Shabbos is because if you ever look at the poems, which some of them we have the different piyutim on Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, and sometimes during the different slichos, they're not familiar. When you try to say them, your mouth doesn't go with them, right? You don't know them. So if you're doing this on Shabbos, the problem is that you might end up adjusting the light. In the olden days, they would shamayata benedo, or shamayata ner. So the problem with Ma'iravis is that the words are very unfamiliar. And whenever you have unfamiliar words, you end up needing more light, more focus. You need to be able to concentrate a little bit more. And the problem is that if it's Shabbos, Friday night, then there was always a concern. You might play around with the candle in order to be able to read more. So therefore, when the first night of any Yom Tov fell out on Friday night, they would skip this davening, this tefillah called Ma'iravis. Okay? So again, Ma'iravis was poems that they would sing about different Yom a poem that they would sing that had, or they would read. They still do it today. They still have it in Siddurim. It's called Ma'iravis. It's not in our nusach, so we're not familiar with it. But other people do it. No, that's something else. That's just two psukim before Shemon Esrei. So now let's go back. Yeah, we're having a little. Oh, so the problem is that people are very unfamiliar with the words of this poem, and therefore they're going to end up adjusting the light. In the olden days, they didn't have clear printing and so no, it's a common thing that comes in the Gemara and other places as well, where it discusses the concern on Shabbos that you might adjust the light. So it's in the Gemara, talks about it, that there's a Tana that laughed at it, and then he almost went and touched it himself, and then he said that or an Amira, and he said that's why they did it, and he recognized the validity to it. So here also, when it comes to the different Yom Tovim, you don't do it. Okay, so let's go back. Let's go. We're getting caught up.
You're getting kerfuffle.
B'chol Yom Tif, every single Yom Tif. Imchol Leil Rishon b'Shabbos. If the first night falls out on Friday night, she'ein oimrim oz Ma'iravis, that then they would skip this Ma'iravis out of concern that they might adjust the light. Azai, usually B'leil Sheni oimrim haMa'iravis mileil Rishon. Then what they would do is, on the second night, they would end up going and saying what they should have said on the first night. So in other words, they skip it on the first night and they say it the second night. Chutz the Pesach. The exception would be the Yom Tov of Pesach. Why Pesach is an exception? Sha'afilu chal rishon b'Shabbos. Even if the first night of Pesach was Friday night, they would skip this Ma'iravis and they would not say it. They would say on the second night the Ma'iravis of that night, even though they skipped the first one. Why? because the second Ma'irav speaks about Sefira Sa'imer, which is connected specifically to the second night. So even though you missed the first night, because the second one is more connected to its night, so therefore that's the one that you would do, even if you weren't able to do the first one the first night. Okay, Sif Vav. Bimei Hasfira. You know, let's do the first line and then we'll just go to the bottom. Bimei Hasfira. During the days of these 49 days of Sfira, Mesu Tamidei Rabbi Akiva b'shloisha u'shloishim yom. The students of Rabbi Akiva passed away in a total of 33 days. So in those 33 days, we express or experience or behave with a little bit of avelus. For example, she'ein noisin nashim, we don't get married, ve'ein mistaprim, and we also don't take haircuts. Now, if you look in the bottom for a second where it says Gimel, so number one, he says like this: we also don't say the bracha of Shechayanu. And as we said before, okay, so number one, during the Yemei Sfira, we don't make the bracha of Shechayanu. So we don't have new fruits, we don't get new clothing or stuff like that. Now, Hainu, and when would this start? May Isru Chaga Pesach. This is not during Pesach itself. During Pesach itself, you could say Shechayanu, you could buy new fruits and all that stuff. Milvad al pri Chodesh b'yem Shabbos, except, and this is from the Rebbe, this is minig Chabad. Not everyone has this minig, but our minig is that on Shabbos you do say Shechayanu on a new fruits, but b'yem Lag Ba'Imer or Lag Ba'Imer itself. This does not include, by the way, this does not include, let's say, a Pidyon Aben or something like that, which is specific for that day. So if you can't change it, then you would do it. But here we're talking about things that you could change. You don't have to do it then. Now, when it comes to clothing and wearing new clothing and buying new clothing, that's a little technical. It depends if you have other ones, if you don't, for kids, for adults. Depends which clothing. Depends if you're going to buy it, if you're going to wear it, if it's a big loss, not a big loss, and stuff like that. Because we don't really make a shechianu on clothing anymore, so that's why it's a little bit different. But even though we don't make a shechianu on clothing anymore, we still don't usually buy or wear together new clothing. Some people would buy, they wouldn't wear. Some people would maybe save it for certain Shabbosim, even though it looks like we wouldn't do that. But some people do that. If someone says I'm going, there's a sale and I'm going to buy something, I would think that's pretty valid. And if let's say a shirt got ripped or something because they were being billed, then and they don't have any other shirts. I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about someone.
Yeah,
so if they don't have any other shirts, then they can go and they can buy one. So it kind of depends in that way of how that would work. Again, some people would maybe save it for Shabbos because the Rebbe does say you can make a shechlianu on Shabbos, but it looks like we try not to do that as well, even during that day. It's not as strict as the 3 weeks because it's only tzasa velos, but still we try to do that as well. But second, I just want to finish a little bit here. Another meaning that we do during these 49 days, again, this is from the bottom, is we're going to learn the Masechah Soita. Noisef al shiurim akfuyim, which would be including all the rest of the normal shiurim that you usually do. And the reason why we do it is, number one, it's daf liyom, and I'll explain some other comparisons in a second of exactly why we do it. Not now, yeah. Now, but Yom Rishon Shel Sfira Loinim is Daf Hashar, V'ez Daf Rishon Shel Maseches Loinim V'Yom Rishon Shel Chol Hamoed. V'chutz La'aretz, the way you do it is the first day of Sfira you would do the because again, if you look at the Gemara, it starts on base, it doesn't start from Aleph. So it's not really 49, it's really 48. So therefore, the first day you do the Shar block, and the rest of it you would, and then you start the next day. He says that's in Chutz La'aretz. In Eretz Yisrael, obviously, we only have one day Yom Tiv. Now, there's another Masechta also that has 49 days, 49 blocks, yeah? Masechta Shavuos. So some people, they do say that they could do both. And one year I decided, before I was so into this, no, Shavuos here, that means something else, it means Shavuot. But either way, I decided to do it once. The problem was, number one, it's much more challenging. It's not as easy, and it wasn't fun. I did not enjoy it at all. But technically there is 49 days. But the Rebbe actually does address this, and from the Frierdiker Rebbe, that we specifically do Soite. That's specifically the one that we do, and there's a few different reasons why, not just because it's 49 blood, which is obviously part of it, but also number one, the Soite is going from a state of Tumah to Tara, or at least the Suffolk Tumah to Tara, and that's what we do during Sefira as well. We're trying to, the Yidden specifically came out of Mitzrayim, Menta Shari Tuma, until eventually they came to Tara to receive the Torah, and we try to mimic that process every year. Also, the Omer, was brought from Sa'idim, which is like barley, not high quality grain, and the Sait is, as we had yesterday, I believe it was, or 2 days ago, that the Sait is carbon, the Mincho is also brought from like a coarse meal, not like smooth flour. So that's another, and also Sa'idim, so that's another comparison. And also is that, okay, whatever. Also, at the end of it, it comes, the end of the Masech has to do with Anava. If you remember, it talks about when Mashiach comes, be more Anava, less Anava, who's humble, who's not humble. And the idea of Torah also is the same idea, that there's an idea of humility when it comes to Torah. Anyways, the point is like this. These are different connections that have been mentioned, but the point is very simple, that during the days of Sefira, you're going to end up learning it for these reasons. So it's not just that there's 49 blot, even though that's part of it, but also because there's more things. Yeah. Perfect. Yeah.
There's 33, 30 days.
So that we're going to talk about tomorrow. We didn't get into this, the whole back and forth. Yeah. No, two separate things, and we'll talk about it tomorrow. Again, Sefira is not the same as the Avelos. There's two separate things. Technically, before the times of Rabbi Akiva, they didn't have Avelos in Sefira. Nothing to do. But separately, there's an idea of 1 second. Separately, there's an idea of Avelos. 1 second. Separately, there's an idea of Avelos within the 33 days during Sefira. The question is when those 33 days are, and that's why we do Avelos the whole time, as we'll see tomorrow.
Second question.
Yeah. Okay, no, that's not for now. Not for now, please. Yeah. Say again?
Save it for the 9 days.
First of all, you finish it the day before, right? You don't finish it on Shavuos. You finish it the day before. So what most people end up doing is they don't necessarily make a siyum that day, or they do. It depends. They'll save it. If they need it for the 3 weeks. So a lot of people will save the last couple of lines, and just in case, they'll pull up a Masechta. You could do that, or some people will do it right after. I don't think it should be done on Yom Tov. It's not. Even though you're celebrating Torah in some way, you could. I don't know. The truth is, I don't know. Maybe. Yeah. Either way.
Well,
Yeah. 1 second.
my question off the record.
Off the record. Okay. No. Have a wonderful day, everyone, and we will see you all tomorrow.
Rabbi,